Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. I made a terrible discovery the other day. It was a number of years ago that I learned that I was old and that I was significantly behind in matters of pop culture. There are very famous performers now that I've never even heard of. Well, the other day I realized that I couldn't name a single song that Taylor Swift sings. She has throngs of adoring fans who watch her every move, and I've got no clue. I have discovered that I have been passed by. I mention this because there are a couple of groups of folks in the time of Jesus who show up in the Gospels which have adherents like those fans of Taylor Swift. In other words, these groups have fervent followers who live and breathe what their group was about. Today, as we continue exploring who these kinds of groups were, we will look at the Herodians and the Zealots. The Herodians aren't mentioned often in the Gospels, but when they are typically mentioned along with the Pharisees. There may have been some connection between the two groups that is now unclear. Generally, when they appear, they are hostile to Jesus. Interestingly, exactly who this group was is also unclear. Some have even suggested that this group is the same group which is known as the Essenes, which we will look at on Friday. Most likely, this group was made up of members of King Herod's royal family, court officials, and soldiers. They were fiercely loyal to Herod and wanted Israel to be politically independent so that Herod could be set up as a true king. There's even speculation that this group viewed Herod as the Messiah. Let me remind you that at the time, Israel was ruled by the Roman Empire. While Rome had the final authority, they often set up local rulers to rule in their stead on local matters. The Romans set up Herod to do that. Interestingly, Herod wasn't of a royal family or actually even a Jew. He was an Idumean, which was a distant cousin of the Jews. So actually, Herod had no right to the Jewish throne, but these people wanted him as king anyway. The Herodians wanted to overthrow Rome and set Herod up as a true king. Jesus didn't talk about overthrowing Rome, and he came to be a different kind of king. The Herodians didn't like Jesus much. The other group today is the Zealots. The Zealots were a political movement which sought to incite the people of Judean province to rebel against the Roman Empire and expel it from the Holy Land by force of arms. They advocated violent overthrow against the Romans. Eventually, war did come, and the Zealots were the last holdouts and were eventually destroyed on top of Masada. A couple of interesting things. There was a splinter group of the Zealots who were known as the Sicarii. They strongly opposed the Roman occupation of Judea and attempted to expel them and their sympathizers from the area. The Sicarii carried sicae, or small daggers, concealed in their cloaks. At public gatherings, they pulled out these daggers to attack Romans and alleged Roman sympathizers alike, blending into the crowd after the deed to escape detection. The second interesting thing is that one of Jesus' disciples is known as Simon the Zealot, and it is likely that Simon was a member of this group advocating the violent overthrow of Rome. Also among Jesus' disciples was Matthew, the tax collector, who would have been considered a collaborator with Rome. In our divided world of today, it's fascinating that among his followers, Jesus had two who were on opposite sides of the Roman question, and not once is it ever described as an issue. God's family is a place where people live in love despite their differences. God's family is a welcome place for all people, no matter what. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.